A very good morning to you all. Today we shall be discussing about our last topic, that is conservation of biodiversity. It is the last topic of Unit 3, under which we shall be having knowledge about various subtopics. That is, why do we need to conserve biodiversity? What is the importance of biodiversity and all. So, as well as in situ conservation and ex situ conservation. Well, that was my cousin. She was very much excited to see how our recording is done, online lecture recording is done. So let's begin. So conservation of biodiversity or biodiversity conservation refers to the careful preservation and protection of biodiversity, that is through plant management of biological resources as well as the species, right, and through sustainable use of resources in order to prevent exploitation, destruction or extinction. So let me simplify it. Biodiversity conservation refers to the preservation and protection of biodiversity. So preservation means you are preserving the quality of the ecosystem, okay, preserving the quality of the species, okay, just like we used to preserve the pickles, okay, in order to sustain the quality, okay, and protection refers to keeping away any kind of threats, okay, that might harm that particular species or that particular diverse or biological organism. Now, how it can be done or achieved? It can be achieved through plant management of biological species and the depending resources, okay, obviously through plant management, okay, proper planning and implementation of the plants, okay, or law, and managing the area where the biological organisms live in is a must, if you are to conserve a biodiversity, okay, as well as through sustainable use of resources. That means using the resources in such a way that it can be utilized by our future generation as well. That means उतना ही use करो जितना की ज़रूरत हो, right? All this prevents exploitation, destruction or extinction of a particular species, okay. So overall, biodiversity conservation refers to the careful preservation and protection of biodiversity, which can be achieved through plant management and sustainable use of resources. So there are various types of diversity depending upon which sense you are diversifying it or differentiating it, okay. Some of which are listed here. As for example, the forest diversity, this could include the aquatic diversity, the microorganism diversity residing in the various type of mammals diversity, various type of aves diversity, etc., okay. And next is your bird diversity, then genetic diversity, then race diversity. We human beings are also biological species, so we also have different varieties of different races, isn't it? So that also builds up a diversity. Plant diversity and marine diversity. Now, what are the objectives of biodiversity conservation? Biodiversity conservation has three main objectives. That is, first one, to preserve the diversity of species or to preserve the biological diversity. Next is sustainable utilization of species and the ecosystem, and to maintain life supporting systems and essential ecological process, okay. That is, first to preserve, second to sustainable use a resource, and third to maintain the life supporting system and ecological processes. Now, how can we achieve all these three things, right? First, by assessing a particular area or a particular ecosystem, okay, or a particular region, okay, for having information about the quality, the number and the kind of biological species living in that particular area, and the favorable parameters which are required for their growth and sustenance, okay. Next is planning, as how to protect the area or how to manage the area. And the third one is to implement the plannings or the laws, okay. If we simply plan something and we don't implement it, then it goes in vain, isn't it? So implementation is very much required. And the fourth and most important step is tracking or keeping a record, okay, of the activities or monitoring the activities, okay. Because suppose you have planned very well, you have implemented also it very finely, but you have not kept a record or you are not monitoring it time to time, then what will happen? some drastic events may occur and you might not be aware of it. Okay, so these 4 steps are very much important if you are to conserve biodiversity. Now, what are the importance of biodiversity? Why do we need to conserve biodiversity? Because it provides us a number of useful entities, such as economic in terms of economic value, like the cash crops. Okay, they bring huge amount of economy in our country. Then medicinal, obviously we know early in ancient times there were no allopathic doctors. Okay, there were no chemical drugs, but the civilization, they totally resided on the plants. Okay, the wild plants. Okay, so in that regard also the plants are very much important. Okay, and today in today's chemical drug world, all the medicines, most of the a number of medicines, the chemicals composition of that medicine, okay, the knowledge about that chemical composition comes from the plant. Okay, so we cannot ignore the plant in the field of medicine. And ethical benefits, it adds aesthetic value, that is beautification purposes, isn't it? If you simply visit a wildlife sanctuary or national park, you see a number of plants and animals residing in there, and it adds natural beauty. Okay, so and also it maintains an ecological balance. Obviously you can relate it with the example of a with that of a food chain or food web. Okay, so obviously they are very much helpful in maintaining the ecological balance in the environment. Okay, so it is very important to conserve the biodiversity. Now, biodiversity and human health. Okay, this is a small topic. Biodiversity, in my slide it is a small topic, overall it's a broad topic. Now, biodiversity and human health. Biodiversity, it helps in maintaining ecosystem. Okay, and the ecological process, hence we obtain different sort of resources. Okay, in the form of nutrition, in the form of the medicines, etc. Okay, and it also adds aesthetic value. Okay, it also has psychological impact in our living system. Okay, in our human body, it also adds aesthetic value. It provides food, it provides shelter, it provides building materials, it provides medicine and lots more. Okay, the periodic and seasonal rainfall, the timely and even changes which takes place all throughout the year helps us obtain different food products, both forests, wood and non-wood products. Okay, loss of biodiversity. Now, what are the factors which are responsible for the loss of biodiversity? A number of factors are there which can be divided into 2 broad categories, that is the direct drivers and the indirect drivers. The direct driver includes the over exploitation, there is overuse of any resources, or okay, or let us say over hunting. Okay, this may also lead to the loss of biodiversity. Then the land use or sea use changes, that means using the particular amount of land or particular region of water for some human human activities, right? Like building any sort of construction works, like building some big infrastructures, etc. Okay, so this also leads to the change of biodiversity loss in that region. Okay, and one important factor is, that human being contribute in terms of satisfying their greed is deforesting the area or degrading that particular area. Okay, next is your climate change. Obviously enormous amount of pollutants are released from the industries and factories. Okay, so this hardly they are beneficial for the environment. Mostly they are very much harmful to the environment. Okay, the various parameters have been set up to which, or permissible limits have been set, but still the flaws happens in most of the areas. Then is your invasive alien species, that means the exotic species. We have learned about this exotic species in our earlier videos, isn't it, earlier presentations. So there you have seen the exotic species, how they dominate a particular area, how they affect the particular native plant species. Okay, so the impact of one exotic species may eradicate or totally extinct the native species. Okay, hence it is one of the direct drivers. Then is your pollution. Obviously pollution in every form is very much harmful for the environment. Okay, so be it air pollution, be it water pollution, be it land pollution, and noise. What about the noise? There are very much researchers, good amount of researchers are there, which relates the impact of noise to that of the human health or other living organisms. Okay, so these are the direct drivers which causes the loss of biodiversity. Regarding the indirect drivers, these are demographic and socio-cultural, that is the increase in number of the human populations, obviously, or a particular topography of a particular area. This leads to the loss of biodiversity in various forms such as encroachment, deforestation, expansion, etc. Economic and technological, obviously. So you see there are certain type of crops which might fail in unfavorable seasons. Okay, this leads to the loss of the economy of a particular area. Then maybe the wildfires, mostly the wildfires and all the floods and all this also are very much devastating, and this leads to the economic loss of a country. Now in terms of money, as well as in terms of the biodiversity species, also it is a matter of concern. Now institution and governance, obviously, if the institutions are not responsible, okay, and they do not take up they do not follow their duty well for conserving the biodiversity, obviously the diversity is the particular biological species is going to be affected. Okay, as for example, the rangers, the park rangers, they are meant to protect the wild animals from illegal hunting and poaching, isn't it? But if they don't do it well, if they don't do their duty well, they don't keep a check on the particular area, okay, then obviously there will be loss of biodiversity. Okay, then it is very much important who are the planners. The planners should be such individuals who have good amount of knowledge in their respective fields. Okay, suppose you are to conserve a biodiversity, that means you need to do a good planning regarding how, first and foremost, regarding you need to assess the particular area. Then you need to have a clear-cut idea about the number of species residing in there, the quality of the species, and the importance of that particular area, the ecosystem, and the various threats. And then you need to formulate certain plans and laws, okay, such as demarcation of the particular area, prohibiting the human beings from doing any sort of activities inside the area, park or area. Okay, and then comes your implementation. So this should be governed very much well. Okay, a good governance is required for maintaining quality check in the areas, okay, where biodiversity is a matter of concern. Okay. Now another thing, there are many aspects such as your financial aspects, contribution of individuals in the grassroots level, etc. Okay, this also hampers the survivability and sustenance of the biodiversity. Then is your conflicts and epidemics. Obviously, conflicts between two species, maybe competition for food, or conflicts between human and wildlife. Okay, as we have learned in our previous presentations. Okay, and the epidemics in the form of disease. Okay, nowadays the scientists are involved in genetically modifying organisms. Say for example, in a certain day they generate such a biological species which is totally devastating for the crop or plantation, for the cash crops. Okay, so what would happen? Obviously the economy will fall down, there will be starvation, there will be hunger. Okay, that's all around. Okay, so these are certain examples which are responsible for the loss of biodiversity. Of course the natural calamities are there. Okay, so if we are to summarize it, biodiversity is being lost mainly due to the loss of habitat, over exploitation of resources, climatic changes, various type of pollutions, invasive exotic species, diseases, illegal hunting, etc. So here you can see there is a water hyacinth, which is exotic species. Okay, and it is also known as the terror of Bengal. Okay, because it mostly dominated the water bodies of Bengal area and killed the native fish populations. And in the second picture you can see it is a dodo, which is a Mauritius bird. Okay, and it is extinct now. Okay, due to the illegal hunting and over exploitation of the dodo, they got extinct. Okay, so these two are very well known examples. Now, how to conserve biodiversity? First and foremost, all the economically important organisms should be identified and conserved. As for example, the cash crops. Okay, they are very much essential for us, for human beings. Okay, sustenance of human lives as well as animals also. Okay, because they add economy, they fulfill our hunger, etc. So this sort of organisms needs to be conserved, okay, identified and given priority in the for conservation. Okay, then unique ecosystems should be preserved. Okay, I think in my opinion every ecosystem is unique in its place. Okay, because they overall they contribute to whole the global ecosystems, which I feel. So every ecosystem is important and every ecosystem should be preserved. In suppose in a particular area, here you can see in the lowermost picture there is a forest area having river water flowing through it. There are various sort of animals. So each and every point there, the aquatic region has its own ecosystem, the terrestrial area has its own ecosystem. Okay, and each and everyone are interdependent about each other. So hence every ecosystem is unique and every ecosystem need to be conserved. So how an ecosystem should be conserved? First and foremost, you need to take care of the parameters, favorable parameters of that particular area, and you should try to maintain the parameters. Okay, under natural circumstances you should not in hamper the working ecosystem. Okay, in any sense, for any reasons. The resources should be utilized efficiently. Obviously, if you are to conserve biodiversity, you should utilize the resources efficiently. As for example, suppose you have a number, you wish to have some logs, okay, for construction of houses or railway tracks. So what you need to do, first and foremost, you need to survey the particular area. You need to see the denseness of that particular area in terms of the vegetations and the desired wood, and then you need to cut or obtain the wood in such a way that it does not affect the ecosystem. Okay, suppose you need to follow the afforestation technique. Suppose you have cut the timber, okay, of a particular ridge area. Meanwhile, you should sow some seeds as well, or you should you should sow some seeds so that it covers up, even though it takes time for covering up. Okay, but still that is an effective way. And like I said, if there are any exotic species, woody species, if the woods from that exotic woody species can be obtained, then it is very good idea, because we need to clear the exotic species. Okay. Okay, now poaching and hunting of wild animals should be prevented. Obviously, if you have to conserve biodiversity, and an extensive amount of this poaching and hunting, they drastically affect the biodiversity, hence this should be kept in check. Okay, so how poaching and hunting can be prevented? By formulation of various laws, and not only formulation, by implementation of the laws. Okay, the reserves and protected areas should be developed. Obviously, reserves and protected areas such as the wildlife sanctuaries, national parks, biosphere reserves. Okay, other examples include the own gardens, the botanical gardens, the zoological parks. Okay, the various storage facilities such as the seed banks, the seed banks, etc. This can be developed so that the biodiversity can be conserved. The level of pollutants should be reduced. Okay, obviously the industries, there are certain permissible limit for releasing of the pollutants, or there are certain rules and regulations in how you can uh, uh, deal with the how to deal with the pollutants. Okay, so the industries or the factories personnel, they need to strictly follow the rules and regulations, and we also on our personal part we can reduce the level of pollutants. As for example, we use the vehicles, we can use a good quality engine, better fuel, so that we can minimize the release of harmful air pollutants, okay, from our vehicles. So obviously overall, if you reduce the level of pollutants, the ecosystem will can tackle and maintain its integrity, okay. The environment can maintain its integrity. Now deforestation should be strictly prohibited. Obviously from this tree pyramid you can see the if the trees are decreasing, then obviously there will be a desert like conditions, okay, followed by the increase in dryness, increase in temperature, which will be unbearable, because every living organism needs a certain optimum temperature to live in, okay. Environmental laws should be followed strictly. Yes, of course, the only implementation, only formulation of laws is not enough. Implementation of law is very much important, okay. Public awareness should be created. So here it is a very beautiful picture which I put, okay, here, that is boat in a drowning condition, and then they are awareing everyone. So this should not happen with us, okay. We should not let our we should not let ourselves to be drowned, okay, due to our negligence, due to our greed, okay. So it's better it is always said that prevention is better than cure. So it's better to start working right now, okay. So overall, by preservation, protection and management of the ecosystem, the natural habitats also ensuring that they are healthy and functional. That is, how can you conserve the biodiversity? So overall, by preserving it, by protecting it from various threats, and management of the ecosystem, okay, their natural habitats, right, the favorable parameters, okay, and by ensuring that they are healthy and functional by time to time monitoring, okay. So here you can see there is a pictorial representation of the media personals, the government and policy makers, the scientists, conservationists, conservation agencies, the poachers and the companies involved in the land clearing, etc. So we need to coordinate among each other, okay. If we are to conserve biodiversity, we need to conserve each other. Obviously there are pressures, okay. The red arrows, they show this pressure of one on the other, okay, and the green one shows the coordination. So here you can see two individuals are definitely they coordinate, but on contrary, the other two individuals they put pressure on each other. So in this regard, if we need to minimize the pressure induced by one upon the other, and we need to work in a coordinated manner so that we can conserve the biodiversity, okay. Now the a very important thing is, if for policy making we need to involve the local people, okay, because the local peoples are the one who have good amount of knowledge of a particular area and the living species residing in that particular area. So if we involve the local people and follow certain practices such as the joint forest management practices, etc., social forestry practices, etc., obviously we can save the degrading environment, okay. The ecosystem can be of a particular area can be restored, and we can have a green and balanced environment, okay. And the poachers and the companies involved in land clearing should be kept in check by implementation of strict laws and marketing strategies, okay. So and time to time by keeping an eye on these companies and the poachers, okay. Now what are the methods of biodiversity conservation? There are two broad methods of biodiversity conservation, that is in situ conservation and ex situ conservation. So what do you mean by in situ conservation? That means within the natural habitat, okay. Suppose lion lives in the jungle, so jungle is its natural habitat. So if we allow the lion to roam freely in its natural habitat, and we keep and check on its activities, okay, and whether it is healthy and sustaining or not, so that type of conservation method is termed as in situ, that is within its own natural habitat only. If we are conserving a particular species, it is known as in situ conservation. So for as for example, the national parks, wildlife sanctuaries, biosphere reserves, etc., are means of in situ conservation, okay. Next is ex situ conservation, that is conserving a particular species outside its natural habitat. Suppose lion lives in the jungle, and we have captured the lion and we have kept it in a zoo. So the zoo is not its natural habitat, isn't it? Even though we supply the lion with food, with a little bit of amount of the forestry features, etc., but still it won't be, it can't be related with that of the that natural habitat to 100% extent, isn't it? So any sort of conservation process outside the natural habitat is termed as ex situ conservation, as for example the zoos, botanical gardens, okay, etc. Now, in situ conservation implies the conservation of species of flora and fauna, that is flora means the plants found in a particular area, and fauna means the animals found in a particular area, okay. So in situ conservation implies to the conservation of species of flora and fauna inside their natural habitat. This type of conservation aims in preservation and protection of the species from getting threatened as a consequence of various natural and human interference. Obviously, the wild animals are mainly prone to the attack by the poachers, by the illegal hunters, okay. So what we can do, we can keep an check, okay, on these particular top points, okay, in order to conserve the biodiversity. So one simple method can be done is the demarcation of that particular area and naming it in terms of the various IUCN category list, okay, and then preserving, protecting and maintaining the integrity of that particular area. So in this way we can prevent the animal from getting threatened, okay. Now the species are nurtured, preserved and protected in the natural environment, isn't it? And thereby their ecosystem is also preserved. So in situ conservation, the animals are the animals are allowed to remain in the natural habitat, and the ecosystem is protected of that particular area is protected, okay. Preservation by means of area demarcation, protection from illegal activities like hunting and poaching, smuggling of valuable flora and fauna are strictly dealt as per the laws. So under the demarcated area, all these sort of activities are totally not allowed at all, okay. And they are strictly dealt as per the laws. The favorable parameters required for the sustenance of the flora and fauna are monitored time to time to ensure safety and protection of the growing species. Obviously, just simply by area demarcation is not allowed. Setting up of rules and laws is not not limited, okay, it's not okay. What you need to do, you need to keep check from time to time. You need to constantly monitor the particular area for any odd happenings, okay, if you are to conserve a particular species in its own natural habitat. Okay, now advantage, what are the advantages of in situ conservation? First and foremost, it is cost effective and convenient method of conserving biodiversity, isn't it? Cost effective means you need to not utilize a huge amount of money. First and foremost, you are not required to build any an ecosystem, artificial ecosystem. You are not required to build any infrastructure, okay, for sustaining the life of the involving species in that particular area, okay. So in that regard, your money is not being used to a larger extent, isn't it? And then you see, in a zoo you need to feed the animal, okay. For that you need to cultivate or rear certain amount of crops or certain amount of animals, okay, for feeding your lions or tigers and as well as other herbivore animals, isn't it? So that requires good amount of money, okay. So in the natural on contrary, in the natural condition, they are open, okay. Under natural circumstances they are open, and they go and they predate or they kill, okay, the other animals and utilize them as their food resources, isn't it? So in that regard also it is cost effective. A large number of living organisms can be conserved simultaneously. Obviously, in the natural habitat, in a natural wildlife, we can conserve all the different type of individuals simultaneously. Okay. Since the organisms are in natural ecosystem, they can evolve better and easily adjust to different environmental conditions. Obviously, if you capture an animal and you feed it with all the good things which that particular animals would have in its natural habitat, but still you will see one differences, that is the psychological stress in that animal because of being locked up in a cage. Okay, so under natural conditions, and it is well known that the growth and development of a living body is dependent upon the psychology, okay, upon the emotions of that individual at that point of time. So in this regard, if you live a particular animal species in the jungle, obviously he will be able to adapt, okay, to different environmental conditions, and he can easily adjust to different circumstances, isn't it? Ecological integrity is maintained and managed. Okay, this ecological integrity means the ability of an ecosystem to provide the life supporting life sustaining materials, okay, in the form of foods, in the form of favorable parameters such as the temperature, light, etc. Okay, and it is to be known that is the ecological integrity, okay, allows us to maintain the biological integrity, the physical integrity of a particular area, and chemical integrity. It is the incorporation of all these three integrities. Okay, that is, if the physical integrity is maintained, if the chemical integrity is maintained, and the biological integrity is maintained, okay, that means what, the ecological integrity of that particular area is also maintained. Okay. The disadvantages of in situ conservation is habitats may be fragmented by natural factors, isn't it? And the species may not have enough area for its sustenance, okay, or the survival. Genetic diversity may have already been dramatically decreased. So, being a large area, okay, it is very much difficult to keep to monitor the each and every corner at a simultaneous point of time. Okay, so maybe in a certain amount of area there the land might have get degraded, or the species might have competed with each other, and the genetic diversity might have lost. Okay, this can also be a factor. So that means what, this point states we cannot the monitoring is very much essential. Okay, and in a large area monitoring is sometimes becomes difficult. Okay, now conditions that threaten the organisms in that area may still be present, okay, such as disease, and like I mentioned, the competitions among the species or among different species. Okay, poachers and ecotourists may see the thriving area as an opportunity and may cause damages. Obviously, if there are diversity or there are foods in a particular area, in a particular jungle, the hunters or the poachers, or if they come to know that the particular animal cost many euros or dollars in an international market, obviously they will go for poaching, isn't it? So this sort of activities takes place in the when in situ conservation is observed. Okay, monitoring issues, obviously like I mentioned, the animals are left in their own natural habitat. Okay, as for example the Sundarban tigers, they are very rarely seen, okay, because they are left in their natural habitat, and they roam here, okay, in the out of the 152 islands they roam, okay, everywhere except the islands where the human population has inhibited. Obviously certain news has been there, like the men hunting the eating the uh, human beings, etc., but they never tend to come and inhibit the human populated area. Okay, so, and it was earlier speculated that there are 1000 to 2000 3000 number of tigers, but still, but later on, upon putting the GPS system, etc., they have found the numbers are very much less as compared to what they have imagined. Okay, so this sort of monitoring issues are there. Okay,